What's going on, guys? So today I'm here with both my parents,
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
and this was a highly requested video of what they think about me, my journey, my success, and whatnot. So I'm gonna ask them some questions that you guys wanted me to ask them. So let's just jump right into it. They're gonna both give their own answer because it might be different. So, what was I like as a kid? You go first.
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. I would categorize Tanner as a good kid, high energy. Played 2, 3, 4 sports at a time from the time he was about 4 years old on. Um, Very quiet, a little bit shy, and but driven when he found something he really liked or wanted to do. There was no stopping him then. But yeah, I guess that's how I'd say it. Joe.
Yeah, I think the same. I'd give the same answer probably. Really big heart. Always wanted to make sure everybody else was having fun and nobody was left out. The child that we would take to Dave and Buster's and he would win all kinds of prizes and then find a little kid who didn't have any, not say a single word, but tap them on the shoulder and hand all of his prizes to them. So just really good. He was always an easy kid because he was so good.
Yeah, and even though he was shy and quiet, he was very competitive. Always wanted to win, whether it was at Dave and Buster's winning stuffed animals or little cheapy toys that he could give away, or at the county fair winning the giant stuffed animal by shooting a basket, or winning, in t-ball, soccer, hockey, whatever it was. He was competitive, even though I'd call it quietly competitive.
How did I do in school? Let's start with like high school and then college.
I would say in high school, when you put your mind to it, you did really well. You generally didn't want to be studying for tests. You do your homework, but you weren't driven to get A's. Let's put it that way. If you could do as little as possible and get a B, you were happy with that, which incidentally was exactly how I was in college.
Goal was to get through. It didn't matter how good.
Yeah, and me too in college. And you in college, part of this is I traveled a lot throughout my career and through Tanner growing up, so I wasn't here as much every day as Joe was. But I would say in college you were putting in your time. You didn't really want to be there. I don't know how much you were learning or not, but you were putting in your time because you knew that's what we thought was best for you at the time.
And before I started like entrepreneurship, the very first year of college, I'd leave my classes early to get to the gym before it was too busy. And because I was thinking about the gym and going the whole time, so every math class I'd leave early or something like that. I'd walk out when the teacher was teaching and she would get mad, but I didn't care. And then after that, I'd skip more and more classes and just go for tests until it was all of them in my last semester. So,
Well, and you used to tell me that it was stressful to go to college. When you started the whole entrepreneurship thing, you had 2 classes. One was on ground and one was online, and you would tell me that was so stressful, and I'd be saying, how on earth can 2 college classes be stressful? You're running an entire company. That doesn't faze you. I don't get it. And part of what we wanted to do was make sure that he completed his education. He's still got 9 classes left to get his bachelor's degree. So we pushed and pushed to hope that he would complete it so that he always had his education to fall back on if the entrepreneurship thing ever ended or didn't work or whatever happened.
so you guys paid for my college, and then any class I got a C or D in, I paid for. Correct?
You paid for the class and you paid for the books, and yes, you basically paid every single fee that was associated with it. That was our deal when you went to college.
If you got a C or a D.
If you got a C, D, F, if you got a C or below, you had to pay for the entire course and all the books and
So
materials.
about half my
But I would also say there were other people, your grandparents, who had a savings account for you for college. Some student loans you took out, we didn't pay it all in cash. Using part of your theory of you can borrow money that's a low interest rate, and then you do that, which school loans are. But in general, the idea was we wanted you to get your degree. Because when we grew up, that's what you needed to get in the door. You needed a degree to get the interview. You needed the degree to get in the door and then show what you could do. It's different now. You've shown us that. It's very different now.
And we'll touch on that more later, guys. So, what did you think? Kind of, what were your thoughts when I was starting to learn Amazon, or just starting Amazon before I got my first product? Like, did you think it was a legitimate thing? Did you think it was kind of like reselling on eBay, or what were kind of your expectations or thoughts?
For me, I'm old school. I'm a bit of a dinosaur, which is how Tanner gets the dinosaur thing, only different. eBay to me has always just been kind of interesting, but not a way for people to make money. Amazon, I never really understood that you could be a reseller on Amazon and do FBA through Amazon. And all I would see is Tanner starting to consume all these books and all these webinars and sit outside in a chair listening to somebody on a webinar and all these self-help people. And I thought that was fantastic. He was never much of a reader in elementary or even in high school. And then all of a sudden he started consuming books and asking if you could buy 2 more, 3 more, 4 more books. And I was like, yeah, if you're actually reading them, I'll buy you all the books you want. So in Tanner, typical Tanner fashion, which I didn't realize until just recently, he put his mind to it and he was going to figure out how to do it. And do it for him was figure out how to make money doing what these other guys are doing, making money. So that's how I viewed it.
Well, and when you first started, I didn't know what Amazon was for resellers. So I had no idea what you were doing or talking about, and you really didn't bring it up to us until you had already started and had, I don't know, maybe your second product going.
No, I had my first one.
First, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we just didn't know what it was, and and when you think of eBay, eBay is essentially an online yard sale almost. So
Right.
Amazon's so different. We just had no idea. It's almost like this little side hobby. We didn't know you could really make a living from Amazon at the time.
And I've owned and operated businesses. I've been an entrepreneur. I've been actually in higher education for 30 years, for-profit education. And for me to see someone like Tanner all of a sudden learning all of this and then telling me, oh, I'm going to source products out of China and I'm going to have them shipped, and I've got this guy and there's customs, and I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute. I've got a master's degree in business and I still don't understand what you're telling me. And Tanner's like, no, you do this, I got it, it's no problem. And we, of course, were trying to slow him down a little bit, probably more for us to understand it than for him to make sure he was on the right track, but he was moving pretty quickly.
So what were you thinking at the point when I was doing about $10,000 a month to $20,000 with Amazon, and then what were your thoughts on college then? Still the same, I have to go no matter what?
Yeah, and you've kind of shortened the time frame a little bit. There was a period of time where Tanner was making $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month,
5 or 6 months,
for a few months, and saying, I want to drop out of school. And I'm like, you're not going to drop out of school for making $2,000 or $3,000 a month. You can do that working, down the street. And then all of a sudden he's making $10,000 and $15,000 and $20,000 a month, and he's saying, I want to drop out of school. I need to spend more time on my business. And it's a tough thing for a parent. Your child is a senior in college and got another half a year or a year and they can graduate, and they're telling you they want to stop and pursue this dream, which they know is going to work, but we don't know that. And at some point, we had behind the scene conversations that you didn't even know about, saying, well, maybe we should let them try it. No, yes, no. And then at the point you're making $20,000 a month, I'm thinking, all right, how do I do that? Help me out here. Now you're approaching my income. I want to jump on board. So it's all been a whirlwind for us to watch, I think, Jill.
Well, and back when you first asked about dropping out of college, I was completely freaked out. I'm just so upset over that. I've got a college degree. Joe has a college degree. I think there's something to be said for college in that it teaches you how to learn, how to open your mind, how to know what questions to ask. Because if you don't know those things and you don't know what you don't know, you can get stuck.
How does it teach you that when college is, here's this, this, and this, even though you're not going to use this, and you're going to go learn it in the job?
Yeah, there's a lot.
I think it's the opposite of that.
I
think it teaches you how to learn, though.
It does, but what's interesting is Tanner has shown us he can learn all of this on his own in a much shorter time frame. And the type of education I've been in for the longest period of time has been teaching people exactly only what they need to do to make money, whether it's to be a medical assistant or a pharmacy technician, or a heating and air conditioning repair person, technician. Not ancient Egyptian history, and not colonial history. This is what you need to be able to make money. And Tanner's doing that to the ultimate of compressing it and saying, this is what you need to learn to go do this and make money. And so it probably was a little easier for me to swallow and agree with than
well, also, since you guys don't know, very closed-minded in aspects like that. More open-minded, but thinks he knows everything for the most part, which is kind of how I am too. So
that's
you got to keep that in mind too.
Yeah. Well, and the first thing we did was talk to you about going part-time. We said, how about if you just take 2 classes at a time?
See, my thing wasn't time at the time, guys. It was, I want to be done with college. It's pointless.
Yep.
Not whether, it's taking too much time. I was still playing video games 4 or 5 hours a day.
And our parental responsibility is we need to help you with a plan. And if your plan doesn't work, what's the backup? So for us, the college degree was the backup if your newfound entrepreneurial spirit didn't enable you to make money, or enable you, as importantly as money, enable you to be happy and do something you really love, which is really important. And you'll find that out at some point in your life. And I think you already do know that. So it's not just the money, but what happens if this doesn't work out for whatever reason? And you and I had that conversation many times. What's the backup plan? And maybe that degree helps. But in today's world, I think a degree, and this is a guy who has been a vice chancellor for a university. This is a guy who's going to tell you a degree isn't for everybody anymore. A degree isn't what you need to be successful. Some fields it is, but many fields it's not.
All right. Before we get into the YouTube part, what were you guys thinking when I bought the first Corvette? Because I did it pretty quick after I started making decent, good money.
Yeah, well, and I guess I'll just preface it with saying we have 2 kids. Both kids we've surrounded in metal when they learn to drive.
Big cars.
With SUVs, whether it was a small SUV or a large SUV. I know how I was when I first got my license, and I probably should have had an actual tank. But, it's all about safety for us. And I was your age once, and I enjoyed speed with a motorcycle and other things when I was your age. So it was always concern of safety for us. And our agreement was, if you're going to buy a sports car, buy a car that's not a tank, then you're going to be responsible for the gas and the payment and the insurance and the toll roads and all the things you have here in California, which we were supporting you with because you were in college.
Right.
So that's part of the thing. And I know you've talked about it before. You've had a safety net. You've had us as a safety net so you could try some of these things, which we were glad to give you. But it was painful to see you get a sports car because that, just from the safety standpoint, you're our son.
That was my biggest issue, is I don't like small cars. So, I'm not a fan of the Lambo. I like the Range Rover.
A little background info on what he was saying is they supported me, all expenses, except for kind of like food if I went out or things like that. Yep. So obviously no rent, car stuff was covered, but food and kind of entertainment was on me.
While you're in college.
While I was in college. But I was never given money, really, to start things.
That's
I had,
true.
like $2,000 in my bank account when I started Amazon.
Yeah, you saved up your birthday money that you got for gifts and stuff.
His sister was acting when she was younger, and so Tanner kind of got dragged along. So he had a bank account from some of the acting jobs he did. He was on Everybody Hates Chris the first year, and
when he was a little
just
kid.
background
stuff. In the finale of Charmed and a couple other movies and stuff. So that money that he earned working on the sets, he saved. So, but we did not give him any, nor would we, because that's not something we believe in doing.
What were you expecting when I started YouTube or making a course?